So today my husband said he wanted to make fresh pasta for some fresh ravioli for dinner. So he's going to be making the ravioli from scratch and the sauce from scratch and the filling from scratch, etc. So here's some egg whites that he's going to be using to kind of help put the tops of the ravioli and onto the bottom. But first he's made the dough, and now he's going to refrigerate the dough and wrap it up to let it firm up in the refrigerator like it's supposed to, so it can get nice and cool. And here he is getting some Parmesan cheese and grating it. So there's lots of Parmigiana and ricotta cheese inside. So this is domestic Parmesan cheese. And then we've got some ricotta cheese too. And then we've got this kind of cheese here. And so we've got one whole thing of cheese that we're going to be grating for this. And then we're going to mix it. We're going to mix this ricotta cheese with some spinach here, some fresh spinach that has been rinsed all the dirt out of it from the garden. Here is some panko breadcrumbs, and we mix the panko breadcrumbs and some of the Parmesan cheese, not all of it, and the ricotta cheese. And now my husband's going to dice the spinach, and he's going to eventually add the chopped up spinach to the ricotta cheese mixture. And all of that is going to be mixed up, and that is going to be the stuffing for the ravioli. And then we're going to have a red tomato-based ravioli sauce. Now he's putting coarse salt in the spinach and mixing it in really well, and then putting it in the cheese mixture. Then you stir it up. There's some garlic in there too. And then he's going to put the yolk of one egg in there for the binding process. So it doesn't provide any kind of baking thingy, it's just for binding.
It's just binding.
Okay. And now Doug's going to put on the attachment onto the blender, and the attachment is what you push the dough through that makes the shapes. So it makes the long rectangular pieces, and then Doug made these two square and round ravioli presses on his 3D printer. So he's going to use those to press the ravioli from the dough to make the shape of ravioli from the dough. So he's going to roll this dough out here that he took out of the refrigerator, and then he's going to put it inside the thing he just added onto the blender, and it comes out in long, thin strips. And then he's going to use those little cookie cutter things to cut out the ravioli shapes, and then he's going to stuff it with the cheese mixture. So now he's going to put about a teaspoon mixture of the cheese and spinach mixture at intervals, I would say 1.5 inch intervals in the middle of the sheet of pasta here. Kind of make it into a ball shape. We don't want to put too much and overstuff them, like I say, because then the ravioli will bust open in the water when you boil it. Then you get some egg white and mix it up. And that's going to act as the glue that holds the bottoms of the ravioli to the tops of the ravioli and makes that seal so that the water doesn't get inside the filling when you're boiling it. The one thing you don't want is for the ravioli, the two ends to unseal so that water gets in the middle where the filling is when you're boiling the ravioli, because then it'll fall apart. So you need to get the egg white and you need to put it on the edges so that when you lay the other piece of dough on top of this one, it has to stick together on all the edges, and it can't be too filled with cheese mixture because then it'll break, and then when you put them in the water to boil, they'll fall apart because the water will go in where the holes are. So So now he's going to get these two things that he made with his 3D printer, and he's going to, it does two things. It seals the dough on all four sides, and it also cuts that shape on it. So you have the classic ravioli shape with the scalloped edges, etc. What is that on there? Corn flour. Oh, okay. Just a little denser than coarse. Is that like acts as a small bearing? So yep. Okay. And after he puts together all of them, then he's put it in a pan, which is covered with some parchment paper. And the ravioli are on top of some corn flour so it doesn't stick. And now he's going to cut up some sage and oregano from our garden. And that'll go into the tomato sauce for the ravioli, amongst other things. And before you chop it, you just need to make sure you get the leaves off of the stems of the oregano and on the parsley too, but mostly of the bigger stems. And now we're going to cut up some garlic for the sauce. So we're going to smash it first and then dice it up small. Got a pan with some olive oil in it, probably a tablespoon or two. And then we've got the pan to boil the pasta in. So now we're going to put the onions and the garlic into the hot olive oil and saute it. And then for the tomato sauce, we've got 1 can of organic tomato sauce and 1 can of diced tomatoes. And we put in enough pepper and salt. We salt and pepper each step. That's how you build the layers of flavor. And so now we're going to saute the onions in the olive oil. And then after that, we put the diced tomatoes and the tomato sauce in the pan. We don't add the herbs until everything is already cooked, because we don't want the herbs to get all mushy. We would still want them to be, bright green. Now we're going to drop the fresh pasta here that he just made into the water, and hopefully none of them will break because then the water will get inside where the filling is, and then it'll be kind of gross and it'll leak out into the water, etc. So that's the one thing about ravioli. And but I don't think they will break. They usually never do. He does a pretty perfect job of pressing the ravioli dough together. Now he's testing them. And remember, inside is the spinach and ricotta cheese with parmigiana and some spices. And fresh pasta doesn't take very long to cook at all, just a couple of minutes. You'll know that they're cooked when they start floating to the top. And then we just put them on some parchment paper, and so they don't stick together. And notice that we have some square ravioli and some round ravioli because he used the 2 different ravioli cutters that he made with his 3D printer. And there they are. And now we just get the tomato sauce that's been cooking for a while so it's nice and thick. And we add some butter it's called to finish the sauce, so it gives it kind of a velvety look and feel. Now we put 3 or 4 raviolis on the bottom layer on top of a little bit of sauce, and then we build like a little tower. So after we lay the ravioli down on a little bit of sauce, then we're going to put more sauce on top of the raviolis. Then we're going to put 3 or 4 more raviolis on top of the sauce, and then more sauce on top of the ravioli, like that. And then we're going to coarsely grate some more parmigiana, and that's going to go on the very top, along with some chopped up fresh herbs will also be sprinkled on the top. So it'll look pretty with cheese and chopped up parsley on the very top of it. And here is the finished product. And now I just sprinkle it on the top with some parsley. And let me cut into one so you can see the spinach and the ricotta cheese filling in the middle. And that's my husband's ravioli. Talk to you guys later. Bye-bye.